the reincarnation of Gojo, Kenjaku's secret plan revealed, and more will be discussed in this one, so make sure to stay tuned for that. If you enjoy seeing these Jujutsu Kaisen reviews and want to keep them coming, then channel the special grade sorcerer within and smash that like button. Join the special grade fam by making this the video you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss future Jujutsu Kaisen videos and updates. You're also helping us reach our insane goal here on YouTube of reaching 2 million subscribers by just clicking one button, and I would be eternally grateful for that. And now without further ado, let's jump into it, spoilers and all. Last chapter was full power Sukuna just wrecking Hajime, as was expected after his victory over Gojo. But then we saw other characters like protagonist Yuji coming into play. And yes, Yuji is the protagonist, although it definitely doesn't always seem like that, especially recently. So I'm hoping now he'll rise up shonen protagonist style, even as it's hard to picture him doing much against full power Sukuna. But more on that later. This chapter begins by switching perspectives though. We jump to a woman with curled hair and a fun outfit running. She's angry at Kenjaku for what's happening at the Culling Games. She asks, isn't it too cruel to give them life once again by turning them into cursed objects to only take away their lives again now? She's then trapped by a blob-like curse as she hears Kenjaku saying, if it's too tasteless, I'll add more flavor. If it's too strong, I'll add more of the original. You people are like seasoning and water to me. I don't have any particular feelings towards you. So yeah, classic Kenjaku, not a guy you can hope to get sympathy from. And we sort of heard a similar sentiment from Sukuna recently as well, when he talked about every human having a unique and fleeting taste, which makes devouring them a perfect way to pass the time. So they are similar in their lack of sympathy, but Kenjaku is interesting to keep an eye on just because he's not as strong and needs to use more strategy than Sukuna does. As a result, his planning and devising is always interesting. But he's definitely not weak, and in this case, he's definitely not the prey either. The woman tries to fight back, but it's of no use. She goes from drowning from the blob to Kenjaku fully sealing her head with it. He says, even though I don't have feelings towards you people, I sometimes feel like you guys are too good to waste. He ends her though anyways and reveals that he's applied cursed objects on reincarnated ones and a cursed symbol on awakened sorcerers, so it's easy for him to track them and their whereabouts. Hazenoki appears and is like, why are you talking to her when she's already dead? Kenjaku, by talking to himself like that, did reveal useful information to us that we probably needed to know, but it's funny how the mangaka seems to poke fun at that at the same time in a meta way by having another character call it out. As we're getting to though, it does make sense in the context of the story as well. Kenjaku starts joking about friends when confronted by Hazenoki. Kenjaku jokes about who's qualified to be his friend, and it's a funny list and a short list. So there are only two rules. One, they shouldn't bore him, and two, a more serious one, they should be on the same level as him. Reincarnated sorcerer Hazenoki refuses to be Kenjaku's friend because he says he had enough of friends with long hair, which may be referring to Reggie Star, the long-haired leader of the group Hazenoki was aligned with. Whatever happened though, it's funny how he's just hating on long-haired people now. Such a random trait to focus on and hate. And then Hazenoki finally points out to Kenjaku, you sure like talking to yourself. I guess that's what happens when you live too long. And Kenjaku responds, because my friends got fewer and fewer, aka he doesn't really have anyone else to talk to, so he ends up talking to himself. It's a line that could be seen as pretty tragic if it wasn't Kenjaku the one saying it. Then Kenjaku just tells Hazenoki to hold on and watches Gojo and Sukuna's battle. He realizes that Sukuna expanded his curse technique target to take down Gojo, and he adds, got a good looking face there. Now I'm not 100% sure here if he's referring to Haze in these spoilers or talking about what he's seeing in the fight, but it is worth noting that Haze looks quite a bit like Gojo in the face in some of these panels. Kenjaku explains he has left his curses at Shinjuku to monitor the situation. He also says he'll know if anyone left Shinjuku based on the total amount of cursed energy. It's sort of like sensing someone's hockey in One Piece or ki in Dragon Ball. He knows the amount of cursed energy each sorcerer has, and Yuta's the number 2 and especially noticeable. Nothing crazy here, we knew Yuta was a cursed energy beast even compared to Gojo. Kenjaku explains he also shares sight with his curses. He says the other side has an awakened physically gifted Zenin, Maki, along with Meimei's little brother, who most likely has a spatial teleportation type curse technique, which is very cool in and of itself. He continues, it's risky to just plan against the sorcerers. Kenjaku then had his fill of just talking from the looks of it and attacks Haze with his curses. Haze uses an exploding tooth to counter. You gotta appreciate the uniqueness of manga and anime at times like this. Anyways, his cursed energy imbued exploding floating tooth buys him some time. He asks Kenjaku what's his true objective, and Kenjaku says he's going to end the culling game by eliminating all players. And with that as binding vow, he'll activate the merging process of Tengen with all the people in Japan. So it sort of sounds like to me the human instrumentality project from Evangelion, where people are combined and lose their individuality. Either way, wiping out everybody is a pretty good bad guy goal, so props to the mangaka for that. As Kenjaku's about to finish Haze, he asks, don't you want to make sure if something that you thought was interesting is true or not? Isn't that what living is all about? End quote. And props to Haze, who until the end is pretty awesome here and entertaining. He says to Kenjaku to look at his own shit every morning to satisfy his curiosity. He says this with a smile on his face despite being about to die. It's always inspiring to see epic, not to mention hilarious last moments like this, even if it's not the main characters. Kenjaku then finishes him off pretty easily as he did with the girl earlier. But it seems the third opponent won't be so easy as we're about to see. We see Takaba, the failing comedian, arrive to fight against Kenjaku. And where he fails with humor, he makes up for inability from the looks of it. Kenjaku attacks him saying he has no interest in awakened players like him. He thinks, yeah, of course I just one-shotted that nobody, moving on. But no, our failed comedian comes out of the crater with no heavy damage to speak of. Kenjaku is visibly shocked that Takaba survived and makes a very hilarious expression. Looks like Takaba is fulfilling his wish of entertaining, since Kenjaku is definitely not bored right now, which I think works well for both of them. Takaba says, and I quote, "You shitty monk, you tried to kill me. I'm not forgiving you. Gonna get your butt to jail," end quote. Kenjaku feels something is off with Takaba. He thinks, what was that? It's the first time I've felt anything like this. It wasn't that there was no damage, it was like he made it so there was no damage. So surprisingly, Kenjaku is now surprised and fighting someone who can make the damage he inflicts no damage from the sound of it. Takaba says something I really like here. He says, there's a lot of things to get excited for in the world, but the number one thing to get excited about is when an entertainer only there to match numbers takes the whole show. A great line for him specifically, and loving his character moment right now. Curious to see what he'll accomplish here, but they're definitely hyping him up. Kenjaku even smiles and agrees, you're right. But on to Gojo and his reincarnation aka return. Not only is Gojo a hype character, a case can be made that they need him right now. How can anyone else present possibly stand a chance against full power Sukuna? The mangaka's choices are pretty much unbelievable power up or the return of Gojo in some shape or form. Now, we've seen Kenjaku bring back dead sorcerers, so we know it's possible. Another thing to keep in mind as well is that Sukuna used to be a sorcerer and came back as the king of curses, and if anyone was as much of an absolute monster in their human life as Sukuna was, that's Gojo. With the talk as well of Tengen moving beyond being human and being tied to a human physical form, it's not crazy to think that six-eyed Gojo could come back as someone beyond human as well. So clearly there's a lot of precedents that allow for Gojo to come back, one way or another, be it as an evolved life form, curse, or something else. But let me know what you think. Is Gojo coming back? And if not, how in the world could the mangaka possibly write himself out of this situation where we got full power Sukuna versus Yuji and friends? And good news, we got no break next week, so we will see what happens next soon enough. And if you love strong and hype characters, then you don't want to miss out on my video about all special grade sorcerers explained and ranked from weakest to strongest. Link on screen right now. Yes, our boy Gojo is in it. Like and subscribe to help us reach our insane goal of 2 million subscribers on YouTube, and I'll see you in the next one.